All right. Last time we were working on this guy, we had just put him in here, ready to hydrate, and now we're going to check in on him. Now, I added another friend in here. Just ignore that new friend. You're just going to vibe in there for a little bit. All right. Here we go. Leave that friend in there a little longer. Set that off to the side. All right, so in this kit, you have a few things for the pinning portion. You have your styrofoam board, will be your workstation. You have two supports. These guys are much thinner than the board. You have your pins. You have your tweezers. You have a couple pieces of parchment paper. And on the side of your main base, you will have 5 black pins. And I'll show you guys what those are for in a minute. But first things first, I'm going to go ahead and pull those black pins out and just poke them into my board. There's not a exact spot you gotta put them, but I would advise not the center. I'm going to set my things aside here. Let's go like that. Now let's take a look at our beetle. Right off the bat, you can see just how wiggly, movable this beetle is. Immediately. I don't have to do anything, and this beetle will move. So, I'd say pretty ready to pin. Now, something to be careful on these beetles. You gotta remember, exoskeleton, bones on the outside. Bones. So, you gotta think in the same way that when we pass on and we end up as just bones, these guys are just bones. The soft part goes away. The soft part for these guys, because the bones are on the outside, the soft part is on the inside. These guys can fall apart, even without you doing anything. Pretty sure I picked one up after hydrating it the other day, and its head came off immediately. Shout out if you saw that live. So, if the head or waist comes off, do not fret. We can work around that. There will be separate videos for that. But it's not too hard. It's basically follow the same steps, but just glue the head on later. So, what I've just done is on this side of the beetle, we have, of course, all the legs, but we also have these little antennae up here. I just gently moved them out with my finger so that they are now sticking out to the side. I want them out to the side for right now because we're going to pose them very last. Back over. Now I'm going to move on to the elytra. I'm going to open this beetle. And so, to do that, first thing I gotta do is look at some anatomy. Now, we have the abdomen here and the elytra back here. The elytra splits down the middle and it runs up along this edge. So I am going to try to get my fingernail under there. Very gently, not trying to put pressure anywhere specific on the beetle. Oop. I'm going to gently slide my finger over a little. Come on. Come on. If I break this beetle, I'll cry. There we go. There we go. One side open. Now, when you open elytra, it is going to make snappy, crackly sounds. Do not be afraid of this. You are not breaking it. You might be, but you're not breaking it most of the time. All right. So I've popped up the other side now. Being very careful, especially to hold it in a way where I'm not bending and pressing in on these areas up here where it splits between the segments. That's where I'm afraid you might fall apart. So from here, I want to look at the wings. I'm going to take my fingertip, a nail sort of, and I'm going to catch this little point here. Let's look at it closer. All right, so there's a point right here where it's almost the elbow. You see that little dark triangle? And I'm just going to keep pressure on that elbow and it'll swing out to the side. I want to make sure I move that leg out of the way. Okay. From here, I'm going to move my grip down a little and kind of use my middle finger. Here, we have my thumb and my middle finger. I'm going to use my middle finger to slide the bottom part out. Now we have the wing. I'm going to go to the other side, do the other wing. The elytra closed when I was doing the first one because of how I was holding it. I'm going to come in here to that elbow, and it's kind of the really dark, thick portion of the wing that you can sort of manhandle. Now the rest of it feels like a very thin wax paper. You just got to be careful with it. Wow, you are a very mobile bug. Okay, our bug is all loosened up. We've done bug yoga. I am going to put out the legs in a way that's going to make it easy for me to grab them later if I need to pose them. I'm going to turn this beetle over and I'm going to put them down on the styrofoam. All right, just going to kind of move the elytra out of the way. You can see all the legs. The wings have at least been unfurled once, makes it just kind of a little easier. Now I want to get my, what did they call it? Anchor pin through my beetle. So I'm going to take one of my thicker pins, not one of the thinner ones. You might struggle with it. And what I'm going to do is there's a spot right in here. You can see this spot because it's almost like there's a line dividing there in the center. Let's get that in the light a little better. It's like a line. So I like that line. That's usually where I go. I put it somewhere on this line and I put a little bit of pressure, get through that first part, and then without touching the rest of the beetle, I want to let the force go into the styrofoam. I'm going to give a gentle but firm push down. So now our pin is through the beetle. Okay, so now that we have our beetle where it's supposed to be, I want to worry about the wings first. I am going to take my tweezers that we have yet to use, and I'm going to come in here to the wings. Oh, no, I'm not. All right, so first things first, before I forget a second time, we're going to put some pins down. We are going to take 2 pins. Does not matter the color. Though if you choose incorrectly, the beetle might not like you very much. Nope, that's a silly thing to say. We're going to cut that out. All right, I'm going to use 2 pins kind of in its mandibles a little. And I'm going to try to work on steadying this guy up. Now, I hydrated him 2 or 3 days, and he is very feeling that hydration. So I am just going to add some extra pins around him to be like, hey, don't spin around on this pin like a top. Don't. Stay. Now that he is down, I am going to take some styrofoam. I'm going to put them on either side of my beetle. It's not on my beetle. They are beside my beetle. Now, I'm going to come in with tweezers. I have tweezers. You have tweezers. You should have tweezers. If you don't have tweezers, let me know. Now, I'm going to come in with the tweezers that are included in this kit, And I'm going to go for that elbow that we were gripping earlier. Remember on the wing? It's kind of where the wing's going to be darker. So you can see there, I'm kind of grabbing a darker part. I know that there's more, and I would like it out, please. So I'm gently pivoting that leaf. Gently pivoting this wing out. I am going to make this more complicated than it needs to be. I'm going to get it to about there. I like where it's at. I can still see all my little hands and such. I am going to move this antenna out of the way before I secure anything, just because I want to post that later. And I'm going to take one of our 5 black pins, and I'm going to put it in to the styrofoam at an angle. This is on to our onto our supports. This is onto our supports. So you'll take the pin, put it opposite on the support at an angle, and put it in there. Now, these pins are longer than the styrofoam, so if you find it's poking through the bottom, go at a steeper angle. It will help. Now for the other side, I'm going to do the same thing. I am going to come in here, grab with my tweezers, much more elegantly this time, that other wing, and I just kind of want to put it up top on there. I'm going to move this antenna out of the way. I am, for the most part, okay with this. Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and place those 2 other black pins, diagonal, and over here, diagonal. Now, I have a beetle that is secured down, 2 supports, wings are on top of the supports, and we are ready to go. What I am going to do is come back in with my tweezers, and I'm going to come in with some of my parchment. Now, my parchment is a little big, but I think we should be good. If you want to cut the parchment at all to make it smaller and more manageable, you are more than welcome to. I often tear off pieces of my parchment as I work. So, I grabbed the darker part of the wing, and with my finger, I'm almost petting the wing open, smoothing it out. And then I'm going to lay my parchment on top of it. And then I'm going to lay my parchment on top of it, and I'm going to put pressure with my fingers. I'm going to let go with the tweezers. I'm going to pull the tweezers out and set them down. With the other hand, I'm going to take some of my needles. I'm going to take some of my needles and I'm going to put them in also at an angle. And I am going to go around this and kind of trace the shape of the wing. You don't have to be right up on it, but don't be too far away either. I'm going to trace the wing with these pins. To make it easier on yourself, feel free to pull the pins off of the wheel first, stab them into the top of your styrofoam, like you did with those other pins, and then just pull them from there. It can really help in a pinch when you can't get one of those off. Now see, I have let go and that wing is set. Pretty darn good. The sewing pins apply really good pressure to the top of that paper. Works out really well. I like it. Now, I'm going to move on to the other side, but I'm going to keep something in mind now. Symmetry. It's something that I find rather important. I can already see that body is leaning one way. So, as I pin this wing, I am going to try to pull the body back the other way a little, and this one might slip a bit. Should not slip badly, but let's see what we can do. I don't want the wing to be any higher than this one, so what I'll do is I'll look at where the top of the wing sets in comparison to the other, and where the bottom of the wing sits in comparison to the other. So first things first, I'm going to grab it by a darker point. I'm going to gently pull it up, and that has pulled the body back into the middle. I'm going to flip over my tweezers to make this easier on me. Okay. Now I'm going to take my parchment, and I'm going to lay it over. And now I'm going to pause for a second before I let go, and I want to look, and I want to say, is that even, or does that need a little bit higher? And when I like where it's at, I'm going to apply that pressure with my fingers once again. We are going to come in and pin these down at an angle. All right, wings done. Next, I'm going to look at the legs. Here's where symmetry comes up again. I want to make sure that the legs are in good position and are symmetrical on either side of the body. I like to have the legs kind of out and down because you get to see more of the beetle. I'm going to come in here very carefully with my tweezers, grab a hand from the middle portion, and just gently tug that down. Same on the other side. That's why when you set it down on the styrofoam earlier in this process, you want to make sure you can still see all the arms. Now, I like where those are at, so let's start pinning them. First things first, I'm going to go for the knees. I'm going to put a pin just above the knee in a spot where I like how far down the leg is. And if I don't quite like it, I put it under and I nudge it back up. I'm going to try to go for the same spot on the other side. Now this might take a few tries. You already saw me retry that last one. You see? I like where that's at. It's funny, this one's pushing the leg down, this one's pushing the leg up. And if I really want to make sure that these aren't going to move, I'll put a pin on the other side of both of these. Just in case when it dries it decides, oh, I'm going to go down. Nope, pin. Now, for the feet, I kind of want them to the side and facing outwards. So, to pin something flat, I'm going to gently put my finger on it, and I'm going to put the pin against it at a very steep angle and go in like that. Going to try and do the same thing with the other side. Get the foot on its side how I like it. Put my finger on it. I'm going to adjust it a little. I might even come in here and stick some pins under his toes. Why not? Now, I feel like this knee is too high. Yeah, I did already put it down, but I'm going to put a finger on a pin. I'm going to pull that pin down, and then I'm going to press it in a little further. I'm going to do the same thing with the top one. You saw what happened there. It moved it all down, and now the knee's further down. I like where the ankles sit better now. I don't even think I'm going to put pins on the middle hands. I think they might just stay right where they are. So let's look at the top. Now, first things first, the arms. I'm going to go back to my pinwheel. And I am going to put pins under the arms. Into the armpits. Now doing this is going to force the arms forward. Once again, checking for, you guessed it, symmetry. This pin earlier was helping us keep the beetle from spinning around, and now it sort of got in my way. So I went ahead and I pulled it up for a second, and I scooted it over. Next, I'm going to put a pin next to both of the wrists. Just kind of make sure that they hold their pose. I'm going to do that slightly out. Very nice. I've noticed that on this side, this elbow ended up higher than this one. So I'm going to take my pin. I'm going to very gently poke it till it kind of calms back down and goes where it's supposed to. If I really wanted to, I could just add another pin over that elbow, and that'll keep it in place indefinitely, but I don't want to pin it down too much. So next, I'm going to take a pin and I'm going to put it over, at a steep angle, the hand. Now, it's in a hard spot to see, but you can see I kind of just went over the toes there. Now I'm going to try to do the same on the other side. So I'm going to come over here with my pin. Ooh, can I even get in there? I can get in there. And if I couldn't, I could easily just take my tweezers, pinch the corner of the support, and tear it off. It's styrofoam. Now, we got a few more things to do. Next, I want to look at the pinchers. Are we looking good? For the most part? Yeah, I'd say so. Next, on the inside of the pinchers, we have these two little guys. I want to make sure they are nicely posed, so I'm going to put one beside each one. I might actually put two next to this one, because I could do one to move it in and one to move it up. Or out, rather. Very good. And now I have 4 pins left. 4! So I'm going to come in for these antennae now. I'm going to put a pin under this antenna, move it forward, and I'm going to come in and do the same thing on the other side. Grab the antenna, move it forward. So now it is in front of the hands on both sides, symmetry. And now I'm going to take our last pins, and I'm just going to push this antenna out a little. Do the same on this side. Alright, this antenna is still sort of wonky, but I am out of pins. So, here's the thing. We definitely threw some pins in here for support earlier that are no longer needed. If you find that you still need extra pins, you can use absolutely any pins. Any kind of pin. You could use thumbtacks even. You could use staples if you had to. I don't recommend it though. But you can always go back and be like, okay, I added some extra supports here and there. What is no longer needed now that I've added those supports? You can change it. There we are. We have a pinned beetle. Thank you so much for following along with this long process, but we did it. Now, we wait. I am going to set out this beetle for a week to 2 weeks to really let it dry out. I don't have it in the sun, I just have it in my living room. Just vibing. I just recommend that you keep these bugs away from your pets. Make sure they don't kind of get curious and eat things. and yeah, you should be good. In the next video, we're going to take out the frames and we're going to talk about how to unpin this guy and get him glued into a frame. And then you're good. You hang this guy on your wall. You got it. Ooh. All right. See you then.